You're listening to the Lutheran Ladies Lounge podcast. I'm Sarah.
I'm Erin.
And I'm Rachel.
We're going to dig into your pantries today, ladies. It's time for some Eatin' Pants episode. Erin, it's an Iron-Ladle. What are we doing?
It is an Iron-Ladle because sometime, I don't know, back before the holidays,
yes, we
had somebody suggest that we do a frugal meal episode. And so an Iron-Ladle. So today's challenge, the challenge is to present a budget-friendly meal that your family will, and I wasn't sure if we should include gladly, because sometimes the more budget-friendly it is, the less gladsome it is.
Truth.
But, so somewhat gladly, they will actually eat this meal that meets your own criteria for a complete meal. And this came about because Rachel was like, how many courses are we supposed to have? What sort of, limitations are there? So I decided to make it pretty free and easy. Mainly wanted to discuss what are some budget-friendly meals and how might one go about thinking in that direction. So many people already do this. Like many people wish they didn't have to spend so much time thinking about budget-friendly meals. That said, we're going to try and laugh as much as we can, as we usually do.
I'm so excited.
So one of the established criteria that I also had for this is that when you're thinking about the cost of your meal, I said that there would be no cost for pantry items. And that pantry items would be shelf-stable items that are purchased in significant bulk compared to the amount used in a recipe.
I love that you have a definition for this. It's amazing.
So, for example, that would be things like flour, sugar, plain rice, dry beans, salt, most dry herbs and spices, excluding saffron, of course. Also things like soy sauce. I included butter because, again, it's not shelf stable, but you can actually leave it on your counter and it's okay.
You can.
So anyway, you usually use it. You buy it in typically bulk compared to how you use it. Also oil. Things along those lines would fall into the category of no-cost pantry items. You already stock those. Now, of course, different people do have different things that are their pantry staples.
Right.
I keep beans on hand. I keep tuna fish on hand. These are things that I just normally keep in my cabinet, but not everyone does that. So I'm curious to hear. We each took a different approach with this. I'm curious to hear what were some of your, tell me about your experiences as you went about this challenge. Did you make something that is already a beloved recipe or did you try and come up with something new? I'm curious about that first.
So I am presenting I think we eat this twice a week. This is something that I already make a lot. It's my fastest meal, which to me counts for something because you can just throw it together. And, full disclosure, my pantry, I can't do anything that's, boxed or aged or basically comes in a box or a bag very much at all. So I have very, very, very few pantry items, and the items that I want to count as pantry items in my recipe are probably, I shouldn't say probably, one of them probably is not a pantry item for a lot of other people.
Okay. Yeah.
But I did consider, I make a lot of soups and stuff, which not really pantry items, but it's just a lot of fresh vegetables that really aren't that expensive. And I just dump them in a Instant Pot and cook them. So those actually are still fairly budget friendly if you buy vegetables, if you don't care about the price of your vegetables and you buy them pretty inexpensively. Like Walmart has pretty inexpensive produce.
Yeah.
Or if you use frozen vegetables, those are really inexpensive and they work well in soups. So I feel like I actually had a lot more options.
Or if you're a gardener.
I felt like at first I was like, I don't do flour and beans and tuna and all of the typical pantry stuff. But the more I thought about it, the more I was like, there's actually a lot of options for frugal meal if you eat more paleo fruits and vegetables and meats kind of stuff. There's still a lot of options for you. So
okay.
Yeah. Should I do my recipe now, or do you want Rachel to talk?
No. Tell us. I don't know why I started it that way. Tell me about your meal you come up with.
Okay.
I want to hear.
Okay. So my recipe is coleslaw beef stir fry. I was trying to come up with a really catchy name for this, and I absolutely failed. So if either of you have a better name for
this is the way most recipes seem to be named these days, is by listing out the primary ingredients.
Yeah, I was trying to do like rainbow stir fry or something like, because it's really colorful, but I did not have that creative energy. So coleslaw beef stir fry. This is a meal. So I make this meal every Wednesday. My meals, I have the same meals for every meal. I mean, like my Monday lunch is my Monday lunch. My Wednesday dinner is my Wednesday dinner. That's just how I work my life because I have very few food options. So this is the meal that I actually cook at church every week because we have faith formation night at church every week. And so I go straight from work to church, cook this in the kitchen there, and then eat it. And then we do all our Wednesday night stuff. And without fail, every week, people are like, that looks really good. So I was like, okay, I'll do this one. So it's very, very simple. I priced this for an individual serving since that was the easiest way for me to figure the math. So I use about 200-ish grams of bagged coleslaw, the tricolor one. So you get the red and green cabbage and carrots because that one looks really pretty. And also you're getting extra antioxidants and good stuff out of that red cabbage. So that's the one I use. I actually had to weigh my almonds for this recipe because I just dump them.
Just grab a handful.
I like literally just dump them in the pan. So I use about 2.5-ish ounces of slivered almonds. That's absolutely to taste for whatever you actually like. Okay. It stretches the protein really far. That's why I use a lot comparatively probably. And then 4 ounces of ground beef, olive oil, salt and pepper, and then to garnish on top. When I make this, when it's my husband and me, and I'm making it for both of us, he puts raisins on his because he really likes raisins. Adding a little bit of sweet to it really nicely offsets the savory beef and cabbage. Putting something sweet with it is really good. So he uses raisins. I used to use dried cranberries until my one safe brand of dried cranberries got discontinued. Now I use cranberry sauce. So
rest in peace.
Yeah, I was so sad. So now fresh cranberries are the pantry item for me that I'm not sure is a pantry item for anybody else. Okay. But I literally have over 30 bags. It's at least 30. I don't even know of cranberries in my deep freeze right now. So that for me is a pantry item. Okay. I buy in the fall for the entire year.
Interesting.
So I just have cranberry sauce in my fridge basically the whole year. And I love it. It's so good. I home make it with maple syrup and it's just amazing. So super simple. In a frying pan, medium-high heat, saute your almonds and your beef I use about 2 tablespoons of olive oil until it's done. And then you add the coleslaw and a couple tablespoons of water because you want the coleslaw to kind of steam in the pan. Cover it up, reduce it to medium heat, stir it occasionally, and it's done when the coleslaw is just turning like translucent-ish al dente. You don't want to overcook it, but it's all personal flavor. I don't like it really crunchy still. I like it when it's just barely not crunchy. But if you're using red cabbage, you don't want it to turn blue. That's overdone. So that's your key. If your cabbage is turning blue, you've gone too far. So you want it just al dente. And then you can plate it then, and then you add your raisins or cranberries or cranberry sauce. You don't have to. It's really good by itself. I salt and pepper as I'm cooking. Some people do it after. Either way. So I also sometimes I use chicken instead of beef. You can use any leftover like ground meat that you have, like ground lamb would be really good. We use bison when Aldi has bison. It's so good. But like you could use ground pork, like any of those meats would work with this. So my prices, I had to do algebra for this. I had to solve for X. I'm so proud of myself for solving for X. You can see my work on my little piece of paper on my desk because I had to do a lot of serious math for this. So thank you, Mrs. Martin, for teaching me in 8th grade how to solve for X. So I did my pricing from Walmart. I don't shop at Walmart, but they have a really good price for tricolor coleslaw. So tricolor coleslaw is $1.66 per pound. So it's approximately 26 cents per single serving. I buy it from Trader Joe's where it's $2.49 for 9 ounces. So that's 69 cents per serving. The slivered almonds, I don't know if you count that as a pantry item. I keep them stocked. We buy a 2.2 pound bag every 2 weeks and we run through it because we use it in a lot of stuff. So from Walmart, it's like just over $6 for 10 ounces. So that's $1.53 per serving. Mine is like $1.07 per serving because we buy in bulk. Ground beef. I did organic grass-fed from Walmart just so I could compare it to what I purchased from Aldi. So there's a little over $6 per pound. So that's $1.59 per serving. We buy it from Aldi where it's cheaper.
Hey.
Aldi, $5.19 per pound. So that's $1.29 per serving. I did not count raisins, olive oil, salt, because I figured a lot of people stock raisins, right? Those are a pantry
That's
item.
a shelf stable one. You buy it.
Yeah.
You never buy a single serving of raisins.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't.
Like,
and I did not count the cranberries because cranberries are pantry item for me. So
okay.
So my total per serving is $3.38 from Walmart. This was the thing that shocked me, though. I ran the numbers for the stuff that I buy, and it's actually cheaper. It's $3.05 for goal sets shopping.
Hey.
Which is
okay.
wild. I know. Now, to be fair, if you buy non-grass-fed beef from Walmart, it would be about the same price. So it's around $3-ish per serving, which for me and my food needs is pretty cheap.
That is very good.
Nice.
And it's so good. I'm going to eat it for dinner. Oh, we're recording on a Thursday. It's going to be a while. I gotta make
you had it last night, right?
I did have it last night. That is true. I did. And that's actually when I was weighing everything. Yep. And I put a lot of cranberry. It's really partially just an excuse to eat a lot of cranberry sauce. Cranberry sauce. Yeah, there's my contribution. And it scales very, very easily, which is really nice. Because
I can see that if you just used a pound of ground beef and a 16-ounce bag of coleslaw, that would probably work.
Yeah.
To feed 4 or 5 people easily.
Yeah. And it does depend on how much cabbage you want to eat all at once. We eat a lot.
I was going to say, you called for 200 grams of cabbage per serving, and I can tell you, I know that is a lot of cabbage.
It is a lot of cabbage. We eat a very, very large proportion of vegetables. So this is like in my diet, what I would do. Yeah, a pound of cabbage is around 450 grams, which probably for other people who eat normal amounts of vegetables is probably enough.
Yeah.
So the caveat here is if you are not used to eating that amount of cabbage in your diet, and I actually am too, go slow.
Yeah.
Let your body adjust a little bit.
One way you could do it is to buy a bag of shredded carrots and do a bag of coleslaw and add a bag of shredded carrots on top of it. It's going to cook out about the same.
Yeah. But what you were describing, you would get slightly more than 2 servings from a 1 pound bag of cabbage.
Yep. So if I was making
you would actually need that
2 bags.
Half pound. Exactly. 2 bags of 2 1 pound bags of cabbage
for 1 pound
to
of
a pound of beef.
Yeah.
But
still,
it's more of a loose concept than it is a strict measure.
This is just what we do because that is the bag of coleslaw is my vegetable.
Exactly.
And I kind of finagle it a little bit too because there are carrots in that. Like it's not a lot of carrots, but it's not all coleslaw.
Yeah.
It's or cabbage. It's also some carrots.
Yeah.
And I try to get the bags that have a lot of color. So you're getting a lot of variety.
Yeah.
I love the red cabbage. So
I know you can't eat this, but I feel like this would be really tasty over rice.
Yes.
Which would be a way to stretch the budget even further because the meat is the most expensive part of that meal.
Yes. Oh, that would be really good.
Yeah.
Good thought. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. No, that was well done. You made something that your family will gladly eat.
Yeah,
There's
Lisa
no
loves
question mark on this one.
Yep.
Okay. Fantastic. Rachel, you have now scarfed down.
I had my mic off. I was eating dinner. I still have some left though, so.
Tell me about the meal that you came up with for this challenge.
I brought this up with my family at dinner the other night. I said, I've got this Iron-Ladle challenge. Help me decide because whatever I make, y'all are going to have to eat. And of course, the first answer for how to feed a family on a tight budget, someone said ramen.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, actually, Maruchan or top ramen at $3 for $1. That's $2 for the whole family. That is technically a very budget-friendly meal. Also, macaroni and cheese.
Yep.
The store brand Walmart, you can get them like 2 for $1. And that will definitely feed us all. So that's like $1 plus, a little butter and milk. But I said, no, it needs to be real food. Like we had our years talking about budget when we several times a week, our gourmet meal was hamburger helper without the hamburger. Like, that's the thing. You can do that. You can live that way, but it's not very healthy. And so I said, okay, we're not having ramen noodles for supper. No judgment for people that do that, but I didn't want that to be my choice. And so then they said, well, beans and cornbread, of course.
Okay.
And this is, my mother's family are from the South. So this is a very cultural thing for me. This is something my grandparents served and ate all the time. And so I was like, okay, now you said they have to eat it. The truth is, most of my family eats beans with goodwill. Those that don't.
I did put gladly with a question mark behind it. So.
Those that don't eat cornbread with goodwill.
Okay.
So one way or another, they're getting fed.
Yes.
So what I have here is a pot of beans, pan of cornbread, skillet cornbread, and coleslaw. And together, if you can manage to get all three on one fork, this is good dining.
Ooh.
Now, I got super, super, super excited when you said pantry items are free.
Hey. Why?
Because my meal is free then. So a couple years ago, I've always been on the lookout for canister sets that are actually big enough for a family.
Okay.
And I never managed to find a pretty canister set that actually held, enough flour or sugar for my taste. So we buy gallon plastic tubs of ice cream on birthdays, right?
Okay.
So I started washing these out and refilling them with commodities. And now every time I have a birthday, I get a new commodity. So right now we're up to flour, white sugar, brown sugar, oatmeal, popping corn. What else do I have in there? Cornmeal. Let's see. I know there's more. But anyway, so my shelf-stable pantry items are, dry beans. Yeah, that's one.
Yes.
And I make my own bean blend because, you can get that 16 bean soup.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you're going to have a gallon of beans around, what I like to do is just go grab, which are even cheaper, the individual beans off the shelf and then blend them together. Kids really love helping with the bean blending.
Yeah. Let me tell you a short story here.
Yeah.
When I was in middle school, I had a sick day and I stayed at my grandmother's house and she allowed me to be unsupervised for a chunk of time. And during that time, I gave my and my sister's Cabbage Patch dolls a haircut. They each got a haircut. And I don't know, it's probably not surprising that my doll ended up very cute because, no child of that age has hair that long. So I fixed it. And unsurprisingly, my sister's doll did not end up as cute. It wasn't like I butchered it intentionally, but it just was not cute. And I was then given the punishment, the consequence, because my sister was not happy, was that I needed to earn the money to purchase my sister a new replacement Cabbage Patch doll.
Oh, boy.
Sounds fair.
And I was in middle school, right? So it's not like I can go out and get a job. So the approach that my mom and I developed was that I would be going door to door in the neighborhood selling bean soup mix. French market soup. My mom bought the beans. I think she donated the beans. I don't think I had to raise the cost of the beans as well. I think she took pity on me there. But I assembled this bean soup mix and put it into baggies and then went door to door with a wagon selling bean soup mix to the neighbors until I had enough money to purchase a new Cabbage Patch
Your
doll.
mom's consequences game was A+. Oh my goodness.
It was.
That's amazing.
I still love bean soup, so it didn't put me off bean soup. But that is what I immediately think of whenever I hear about like a 16 bean soup mix, especially if you're making it yourself.
I don't actually know how many beans are in my current bean soup mix. I know there's some fava beans. Those are nice and big.
Oh, yeah.
I got some black-eyed peas in there because I like those. Always appropriate for New Year's.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of beans. Some of them I don't even know the names of. I just looked at them.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's a pretty color. Let's do that.
Exactly.
So yes, I did beans. And now, Sarah, you talked about your recipe being quick and easy. Mine was easy, but it was not quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's something I have a lot of right now. I have a wealth of time.
Right.
Not that I can spend, 4 hours putting together a recipe, but I can keep something on the stove all day. Just check in on it every once in a while.
Yeah.
So I put the beans into soak last night and I put them on to simmer this morning after breakfast. I had a ham bone saved.
Ooh.
Talk about free, right?
Yeah.
This is what most people would just throw away the ham bone after the holidays. But no, I had a ham bone with a few little tidbits of meat left on it. And so that went in there with some salt and pepper and onion and garlic. Not a lot of onion and garlic, just a bit. And basically, they got to know each other over the next 8 hours or so.
Yep.
And it's amazing how good they are. Just simple, good beans.
Yeah.
We call them nature's most perfect food. You do want to rinse them really well after soaking. That helps cut down on the digestive after effects. But they're really good. And then my cornbread recipe is the one I found online that reminds me the most of my grandma's cornbread. And I'll post a link in the show notes or in wherever we put these recipes. But the one I use, I think, is adapted from the Garden and Gun website. That tells you it's authentic. Southern style cornbred. There is no sugar in this cornbread. It goes in a cast iron skillet and you flip it out onto a tray, onto a big plate and slice it like a pizza.
Beautiful.
So it's just cornmeal and eggs and soda and buttermilk. Only I'm too cheap for buttermilk. So it's milk and white vinegar.
Yep.
It made cheater buttermilk. And I think that's about, bacon grease, which I also save. So 2 tablespoons melted bacon grease in the batter, 2 tablespoons melted in the skillet, which you preheat in the oven and pull it out. And it just makes this wonderful, crispy, savory crust.
Wow.
It goes really well. So then you pair all this with my standard coleslaw recipe, which I think I went over during our episode all those years ago. But just, thinly sliced cabbage with mayonnaise, sugar, vinegar, salt, and pepper. Mix it all up. But just that cool tanginess with the savoriness of the beans and the just wonderfulness of the coleslaw. It is a very nice combination. And I feel very happy with this meal. Hopefully my family will agree. Beans are an acquired taste. And when I first started this mission, probably close to a decade now, to get my family on board with eating beans somewhat regularly because they're so healthy and so cheap. It was a quest. Now I would say the older 2 of my children eat them very happily. The middle child is working on it, and the youngest child will eat a small serving with ketchup. Which I consider a win.
Coming along.
We're getting there. I will keep on this quest though, because healthy and cheap.
Yeah.
Unlike so many foods that are either it's pick one. This one you don't have to choose. So
that sounds amazing.
So yes, if you are going with just commodity, because Sarah, you keep cranberries. I keep cabbage, like multiple heads of cabbage in my fridge at any given time. So, but even if I were tallying it up, let's see, this was to feed a family of 5 and we will have leftovers. I used probably $2 worth of dry beans, which were a pantry commodity. Used probably 50 cents to $1 worth of cabbage. Maybe $1 to $2 worth of cornmeal and 50 cents worth of mayo. A couple of eggs. I guess that would be eggs are $1.25 or so now. So 30 cents worth of eggs. So it's like, all right, this is a meal where I have a home cooked, healthy, nutritionally complete meal for probably, if not less than $5, very little over $5. So it'll feed a whole family.
Yeah. No, and I appreciate, and I think it's realistic, the idea that you had to sort of work yourself up to the point of being able to have that many pantry stocked items. You couldn't start there. It would be expensive to stock a pantry from scratch. That would be an initial outlay.
Yeah.
But if you're doing it sort of gradually, like you said, adding it becomes much less expensive to maintain it once it's established.
Yeah. And obviously with a large family, the scale is different. I do a lot of bread baking, so I buy the big 25-pound bag of flour at Walmart, and it lasts me for a month or so.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's a scale thing, but I really do, and I love my current pantry. We're moving probably this year sometime, and I don't know if I'm going to have this kind of pantry again. Right now, I have a pantry with lots of shelf space where I can, stack up those empty ice cream gallon containers and just keep those commodities on hand. A lot of people do not have that kind of kitchen storage and have to be much more fastidious about what they stock. Like maybe not everybody keeps popping corn.
We do.
You do? Okay, good.
Luther. We have, our last house it was like a walk-in closet pantry. It was huge. It was glorious. And our house now has 0 pantry. So we have like a section top and bottom of cabinets that is our pantry. And that's it. Like it is not a lot of space.
So you got to make choices. But it is true that buying in bulk, if things are shelf stable, tends to be more affordable.
Yes.
And also just leaving off the fancy things. If I want to make my ramen coleslaw more affordable, I leave off the extra things like green onions and toasted almonds and French fried onions and just stick with cabbage and ramen, which is super cheap.
Yeah.
But a lot of the times the expense in a meal comes from the fancy add-ons and that you can simply leave those off and find that you have a much more affordable meal on the table.
Yeah.
Okay, Erin, I know yours is going to be delicious, and I want to hear about it. I might turn my microphone off to have a few more bites of food, but it's really good. Like, this is comfort food, you guys.
Yeah.
Yes. So I chose to go cabbage adjacent with mine.
It's an accidental theme.
Is cabbage your theme?
Yeah, we did talk about how we've talked in the past about how that's one of the beauties of cabbage as well as beans is that it's a cheap vegetable.
Yep.
I think it's actually the cheapest vegetable.
But it's so healthy and so delicious.
It
good.
Is. Yeah, and there's a lot of different ways you can go with cabbage. However, I chose to go the route instead of cabbage. I went with cauliflower, which is, one
same
of the
family.
it's the same family. It was selected for the flower instead of the head. I went with cauliflower and I decided to go with a favorite dish that I do make for myself periodically. And so I just called it Erin's Masaman curried cauliflower.
Oh, okay.
And so this is just one that I was sort of, I don't know. I use the shortcut in this one. The star ingredient is the Masaman curry paste. And I have a picture of it that we'll include in the show notes. It comes in a small can at international grocery stores. You can probably buy it online as well. But curry paste is delicious and it's a shortcut to giant flavors. So there's many other flavors of paste as well. There's green curry paste, red curry paste. There's a sour curry paste. I've never tried that one. Masaman is great because it is not very spicy. So again, I enjoy spicy, but this particular one is not a super spicy one.
Okay.
So basically you are sauteing, you have an onion, a chopped onion. You're going to saute that in some oil until it's a little bit soft. And then you add a can of curry paste to that, mix it in to sort of loosen it up and distribute it throughout the onions. Then you add in a head of cauliflower that you've chopped up. You don't need to keep the stem, but if you want to make it go further, you could use the stem too. Because if there's, I don't know, if there's a tough peel or something, you could peel that off, but the stem of cauliflower is edible. So add cauliflower to the pan. You're probably using a Dutch oven for this. It's going to be sort of bulky. So add cauliflower to it, a large can of diced tomatoes, about, I don't know, I ended up making this large because I wanted to use the whole can of curry paste. So I estimate that this is making 12 servings.
Whoa!
So you can freeze some, or you can have 2 meals in the same week if you have a large family. But I often freeze stuff, or else I just eat on it for a week because sometimes
Why not?
don't have time and capacity. So I'm like, I'm just going to eat this meal for this week, and then I'll make another large batch of something.
That is one of the key things to keeping your grocery budget down is being willing to eat your own leftovers.
Yes.
It's huge.
So it calls for potatoes, also chickpeas or green peas. But then I thought maybe sometimes green peas somehow get a bad rap among the younger set especially. So chickpeas offer more protein. So if you are wanting to really emphasize the protein, then go with the chickpeas. But green peas also have protein in them.
They do.
Mm-hmm.
So you add all of that, and then you basically just cover it up and let it simmer away until the cauliflower and potatoes are done. Add some water if the pan starts to look dry, add some water to it. Add some salt and pepper. Right before serving, stir in cilantro, unless you're one of those people where it tastes like soap, and then obviously
that's me.
I'm not going to use it.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. That's rough.
I understand it's delicious.
So I recommend serving this over rice. That will also stretch it further. And honestly, I'm totally getting wrong. Maybe this is making enough to feed 20 people, but I'm only one person, and I usually make it with a half a cauliflower. So, and then eat on it for for a week. Anyway, it could be wrong, but you could add some hot sauce if you like the spice. Add some hot sauce to it and make it spicier. You could go with one of those other cans of curry paste and mix it up, and you're like, I want a different flavor profile. But in my opinion, cauliflower, potatoes, and chickpeas work especially nicely with the Masaman curry paste.
Yeah, I can see that.
When I did all of that and plugged it into this handy dandy nutrition calculator thing where you put in like a whole recipe and then you push the button and do a little bit of things to make sure it's grabbing the right quantities of the right item, I looked at it and I was like, "Whoa, that's not a meal, Erin. That's a bit light." So I was like, okay. I mean, when you're at home, you can eyeball it and be like, yes, that's going to be a satisfying thing. But trying to produce a meal that you can share with other people, I was like, this is going to need something to fill it out. And in particular, I was like, what it's going to need is some meat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I gave some thought, and then I texted my sister, and I was like, Erica, tell me, I need to know by 3 p.m. today. I need you to tell me about the drumsticks that you made for us 2 years ago when we were on vacation in Wisconsin. And Erica replied to me almost immediately. So,
Thank you, Erica.
Yes. Because as I looked at it, I was like, budget friendly, Erin. And so I was like, okay, the cheapest meat out there, honestly, drumsticks are where it's at.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Is super expensive, but no, the drumstick is not glamorous. The wings have become glamorous.
They have.
But the drumstick is still humble.
Yeah.
And
They're so good,
you can get it from Walmart.
Yeah.
That was my easy way to price things out. Walmart, 98 cents a pound for drumsticks.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So you are going to make Erica's baked chicken drumsticks to fill out this meal. And with that, you use chicken drumsticks, mayonnaise, and Tony Chachere's. If you're familiar with this spice blend, it's so good. It's like a Cajun spice blend. It comes in a large canister, like one of those like cardboard canisters that you see at the store. Anyway, it's super good. But you could also do seasoned salt or whatever spice blend you like, herbs and spices. The mayonnaise, I was like, didn't you do something with mayonnaise? Because she didn't tell me that right away. I was like, wasn't there mayonnaise involved? She was like, oh yeah, I forgot. She uses that because it helps the spices stick better. So you use a lot of mayonnaise. You just coat the chicken breasts in some mayonnaise, brush it on or rub it on with your fingers. but it helps the seasoning stick to it.
Huh.
Clever.
Pick the seasoning of your family's choice, whatever. But Tony Chachere's is very delicious, and it has salt in it, so you might not need any other salt. Sprinkle that on, put it in a baking dish, bake at 350 degrees until the meat starts pulling away from the bones. She said she likes it cooked more. It's beyond what is usually like the chicken is done at this temperature. She likes it a little further than that. And I have to say it was so delicious that that's the way
I'm with her. That's how I cook chicken. I'm like, is it done yet? Supposedly, yes, but let's give it 10 more minutes just in case.
Yeah. Oh, see, we live on the opposite side of that. My husband, like, is this done? He's like, looks like it. Let's eat it.
So
we do not
350 until it starts pulling away from the bones. And she said it's basically check it at about an hour. And then if there's a lot of juice in the pan, then drain off the juice and let it cook for 5 or 10 more minutes and it'll be good. And indeed, it was so tender and delicious.
Because the mayonnaise would really help keep it juicy too.
Yeah, that it does. It helps. It's just a fantastic, super cheap dish.
Yeah.
So I don't know though on this one. I need some help. And Rachel, you might be able to help me. If you were buying drumsticks, would you allow a 1/4 pound of drumstick as a serving? Because I mean, it's a 1/4 pound of meat, but you don't need a 1/4 pound of meat. I mean,
I think I would count.
And so, like, what would be the right math for?
You don't eat drumsticks by the pound. You eat them by the stick.
Yeah.
And I would say 1 drumstick for children, 2 drumsticks for the average adult. And if you have somebody who's got a really big appetite, teenage boy maybe, 3 drumsticks.
Yeah.
But most people are going to average out at 2 drumsticks. But the older ladies and the younger children, just 1.
Yeah. Okay. Then it's going to be a little tricky to math this one out totally. But I'm going to just say that I'm totally guessing that maybe it's a 1/4 pound of drumsticks per serving.
I think that's fair.
That's going to average out, like 1 drumstick will be less than that. 2 will be more. But when you average out the 2 together, 1.5 drumsticks per person, then maybe you're fine. So Walmart has the drumsticks for 98 cents a pound, therefore 25 cents a serving. As near as I can tell with my math, and my math might be off, but I'm saying that my recipe is going to give 12 servings. And therefore, it is $1 per serving for the curried cauliflower. Rice, I'm counting as just the pantry staple item. So then adding in 25 cents. So $1.25 per serving. The math might be wrong. So and who knows what you can actually buy where you're at. So it was just a fun little exercise. But it is going to be cheap. It's cheap, especially if you cook it in lard. You have to spend more, but then it goes further.
Yeah.
Spend more to pay less.
It's so funny. I remember a few years ago, I think it was during the 2008 recession, maybe. I was listening to the radio, maybe NPR, and they were trying to feed a family on a budget where they were trying to feed a family of 4 for under $10. Like this was some great exercise in creativity and self-restraint. And I remember thinking at the time, really? Like, this is most of the meals that I make at this stage in my life. Only 4 people? That's very generous.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
And of course, there are many times as I've become more adventurous as a cook that my meals go considerably over that mark. But it seemed strange to me that was strange to them. That this kind of cooking on a budget was something that was newsworthy.
Yeah.
Instead of just a way of life.
And I don't know if I could be wrong, but I suspect that food prices are higher on the coasts than they are here. But you live on the coast. So that doesn't,
Walmart's Walmart.
So, yeah.
Aldi's Aldi.
Yeah. Are Walmart prices the same everywhere, or are they different prices, different places?
It depends on the product. They're pretty close, though.
Pretty consistent.
I would guess that they would be pretty close. Yeah.
I mean, we're not going to be paying $5 a pound for cabbage out here just because it's Connecticut.
Right. No.
True.
So
yeah,
there's a lot you can do. And especially, like you said, if you start, you can spend more of a time and take longer and cook your beans. And you get dry beans are cheaper than canned beans. And canned beans are already cheap, but dry beans are cheaper still.
And they taste better too.
Yeah.
And here's the thing that I love about this particular Iron-Ladle challenge. There was a time in our lives a few years ago, thank the Lord it's not today, where money was really tight. And there were times when I would have to put off my grocery trip until, the next bit of money came through. We were poor students. But I found that during those times, not only did my faith in God grow stronger, because I was having to trust in him to provide, but I had a ton of fun in the kitchen being like, you don't win today, empty bank account. I may just have this number of pantry stable items, but I am going to feed my family a feast tonight.
Yes.
Yep.
So it became this sort of creative challenge. Like, I can't go grocery shopping right now, but what do I have right here, right now that I can cook into something that is going to be a nicer meal than we would normally eat?
Yeah.
And it turned what could have been a hard time into kind of an act of resistance and creativity that was a really fun game I would play with myself in the kitchen.
Right.
Now, that didn't happen very often, but the few times it did happen, it just steeled my resolve to put good food on the table. And so I have so much respect for families that are in that position a lot more than I have had to be in my life, and love the way that they routinely apply their courage and their creativity to feeding their families. So budget kitchen people out there, I salute you.
Absolutely.
Ladies, we want to know what your favorite frugal meals are. And if you have price per serving too, that would be kind of fun. So comment on here or post pictures as your own post in our Facebook group. And we'll have some fun conversations about food, which everyone loves. You can also tag us in your stories on Instagram at Lutheran Ladies Lounge there, and we can talk about it as well. And there'll be some prompts and things on Instagram in the next week that we can talk about meals too. You can find all of our episodes at kfuo.org/Lutheran Ladies Lounge, or on the KFUO radio app, or on your favorite podcasting app. You're listening to the Lutheran Ladies Lounge podcast. I'm Sarah.
I'm Erin.
And I'm full of beans.
Views and opinions expressed on the Lutheran Ladies Lounge podcast may not represent the official position of the management or ownership of KFUO Radio, the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. The Lutheran Ladies Lounge is produced by KFUO Radio and available at kfuo.org or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and leave a review for us too. If you love the Lutheran Ladies Lounge podcast, consider financially supporting our producer, KFUO Radio, so we can keep doing what we do. Find out how at kfuo.org/give.